I just did a shoot with Batman. That's dope. What's up, everybody? My name is Evan Naka. We are back at the home office. Now, it's been a little bit since I've last been on here, and it is because I have just been super busy. I've been traveling for work. I've been shooting with some amazing brands, creating some great content for them. And I feel like there's so many cool things coming up that it's hard to keep track, but I keep on wanting to make more YouTube videos. I keep on wanting to make more long form tutorials and things like that, but I'm finally making myself do it. I'm sitting down, I'm in front of the camera. I'm excited to be back. And not to mention, I just got the opportunity to shoot with my childhood favorite superhero, Batman. Yeah, okay, it's not the real Batman. It's not Robert Pattinson. It's not even an extension of anybody that is remotely famous, and nobody actually asked me to do it. I just did it myself. But it doesn't take away from the fact of what I was trying to do with this photo shoot. It was taking everything that I know of portrait photography, shooting with people and models, and then applying it to shooting with something as small as a Lego action figure toy. Are they action figures? Or are they just toys? I think they're action figures. Anyway, so I did a photo shoot not with Batman, not with the real actors, but with the Lego version of Batman. And here's my little friend now. So it is true, I am a Batman fan. I'm actually just like a comic book fan in general. I like all things DC, all things Marvel. I'm a big nerd when it comes to all of that. I talk with my friends about it consistently, about the upcoming movies and what we thought about them and yada, so on. Maybe I'll try and incorporate that a little bit into the channel because it's just something that I love. I love cinema, I love movies, and I'm not an artsy kind of guy. I just go and I love the stories that they tell, and yes, I can appreciate the cinematography. I remember one of the first films that I really just sat down and broke down was Parasite, and I was like, oh my god, no wonder this won so many awards. It just, every single shot was so thought out, and it's something that I take with me into photo shoots and video shoots now. It's take a little bit extra time, find the lighting, find the composition, make sure that everything is just right, because it looks so good at the end of the film or end of the day, whatever it is. Man, just some of those films nowadays, like Roger Deakins, God, so good. I digress. I apologize for that. I have been wanting to do a shoot with Lego action figures for a while now, and I just haven't found the time. I have a bunch of other ones behind me somewhere on the shelves, but this one just seemed like a good opportunity because the movie just got released, and I was like, you know what, I had this guy laying around, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go and do a photo shoot with this. And I thought there was a lot of good tools and techniques that we could probably use in this form of portrait photography, even though it's on a very micro scale. I need to take a coffee break. This YouTube video is not sponsored by Blue Bottle, but I love Blue Bottle. Oh, that's good. So to set up for this shoot, I really wanted to dive into what I was trying to create. And it was a portrait shot, just like I've done in the past with things like me. If you follow my page, you've seen the portrait shot that I did of myself. I've done it with some other people, with the lighting setup and the techniques, and I give you a little bit of that behind the scenes. So I really wanted to take that and apply it to this micro version of a portrait shoot. And so I got the idea of, let's take all the lighting equipment and make it micro, as if it was going to be an actual portrait shoot for the size of the model. Even though that these lights are gonna be shrunken down in terms of the surface area that it's gonna be coming from, it doesn't take away from the amount of power that is coming from this. And when you focus all that light, all that energy into a pinpoint or just a small surface area, you're gonna get a lot of power. So that's why I had to actually throw on a lot of diffusion on there. I think the first thing that I actually used was a styrofoam wrapping that you wrap, maybe protect some equipment with or something. I think it was wrapped around my TV when it got delivered. But that created a pretty thick layer of diffusion, but I wanted that so that it didn't have that huge amount of light just being directed right at Batman himself. We all know Batman likes to be in the dark, not too much light. Never mind, I'm nerding out. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna walk you through how I set up and my thought process of doing this portrait shoot with Batman. And I'm gonna be watching it on my computer off screen. You can't see it, but trust me, that's why I'm looking over here, is I can see it on my screen. So let's go ahead and pull up that video. I always gotta walk in and do my little product reveal. Been doing that since the beginning. I guess it's kind of caught on. So this first little setup that I did that's actually just a V-flat surface board, a dual board I think they're called, that I just had lying around. It's not really serving too much of a purpose besides just being a platform. The platform that I originally was taking a picture on was white. The table was white. So I thought it was gonna create too much reflection. Now, in retrospect, I probably would have gone with a less glossy surface so that it got rid of any of that bounce flash that was coming off of there, but I think this will do for what we're doing today. This is when I started getting a little creative. Now you can see I brought my pro photo light in fairly close, and I already had that snoot on there, but it was going to be too far away from my subject, and the farther the light gets away from your subject, the broader it's going to be. The closer it is, the closer it's going to be, just based on the surface area that the light is coming out from. I took a piece of black Savage Seamless, I cut off a little piece and I made a cone, and then I taped it to the end of that snoot because it already was creating that general shape that I wanted. Now at the end of that snoot, what I did was, that's where I took that styrofoam kind of padding covering and I placed it over the tip of that snoot. And the reason I did that is because I knew that light was going to be really strong, and I wanted to make sure that diffusion brought down that power as it entered my subject's area where I was taking a photo. You might be asking yourself, well, Evan, why don't you just use your normal light setup with, maybe a 1x4 softbox or an octabox that's a 4 foot or 5 foot or something like that? Now you could do that, but I figured that if I use that big of a light source, that light would just wrap around the entire product, and I didn't want that. I wanted some of it to be a little bit darker and have a little bit of a moodiness. I mean, it's Batman. He's the moodiest of the moodies in all of superheroes. So I wanted it to have that little bit of moodiness, and the best way I thought of creating that at that moment was making that light source be a lot smaller. So then when I go and take the photo, I can shape the light much more specifically than if it was just coming from a really wide surface. Now behind it, I did the exact same thing. I took another ProPhoto D2, put it up, and I had that cone shape, and I was creating a rim light on it. That was my initial thought, what I wanted to create, was having a rim light come behind it, separate it. Now I did this exact same setup basically for my own portrait shoot, but as you'll see, it didn't really work out the way I wanted to. So I did change it up. Everything, I love this shot because I think it's just kind of silly to me, but it essentially does the same thing. So what I would typically do in a portrait shoot is I would set up maybe some type of reflector, a balance, a V-flat, something like that, just to bring some more light on the other side and adjust it as needed. Now, like I said, I was shooting it from a small surface area. It was creating almost like a split light, but the way that the mask was hanging on the face, it was covering up a lot and I was getting no detail. And I was like, maybe if I was an actual person, or maybe if Batman was an actual person, it would look better because you would still catch some of that detail on the face. But since it's such a just plastic surface, it was getting nothing, no wrinkles, no texture. It was just empty. So I wanted to bring in a bit of a bounce, and so everything's on a micro scale. So I brought on this little white riser just to create a little bit of bounce and that reflect that light back onto the subject. And this is where I added in a backdrop. So originally I was thinking I'm gonna have it be completely black. That makes sense. It's Batman, likes to be at night, I guess. But it wasn't really working. It was falling flat. The rim light wasn't necessarily the best. I think it was because the light was just too powerful, and it would just basically fill up the entire subject's face from even if I was shooting from the back of it. So to fix this, what I did was I brought in my case for my pro photo lights. Yeah, it's just a case. And on the case it was black, but it had a little bit of texture on it. And I was like, this is good. This will bring a little bit more dimension to the photo instead of it just being a solid black backdrop. And so that's when I started messing around with that. I took a couple of test shots and I realized I like this, but still missing something, and that's when I brought in the gels. So this gel is your typical warm gel that you throw over any lights just to warm up your scene, but I just layered it. I layered it, I think 4 or 5 times, and then it created more of a red look than an orange or even like a yellow look, and I fired that directly behind my subject onto the backdrop, and it created that kind of cool circular light pattern behind it that a lot of portrait photographers do to separate the subject from the backdrop. And we were doing the exact same thing, but on a micro scale, which I think is really cool concept and I haven't seen done before. Yeah, after I took this shot, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is exactly what I've been looking for. I even took that other riser, placed it behind it to create a little bit of a bounce back onto. I love how I just keep saying Batman, back onto Batman, whatever, he's Batman. A bounce back onto Batman to create some more of that color light hitting him. And I liked how it played together so it didn't feel like a sepet. I can't talk today. I liked how the colored lights bouncing off the backdrop and that white riser were casting a little bit of that color onto the subject. So it really played well together to make it feel like one complete image instead of separate images that were pieced together in post. There it is. And that was our final product. You can see now that I walk you through everything, all the different pieces that went into this really simple shot. And just for FYI, I was shooting on my Hasselblad X1D2, and for the lens choice, it was a 120 macro. I'm really excited. The detail that I got was phenomenal. But yeah, this photo came out really cool. And then I added in the logo and the backdrop, and I added some question marks just to really play on the Riddler. And I think it made it come to life just to really celebrate the launch of this new movie. What do you think? That was pretty good, huh? I think it was pretty good. Yeah, he's happy. But overall, I think the best takeaway for this is don't think of every different product or project as a separate entity. You can actually use what you're learning in another portrait shoot, in another lifestyle shoot, and apply it to maybe a product shoot or something like this. All the same necessary skills and techniques and the basics can be applied to every single shoot that you move forward with. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this kind of fun portrait shoot that I did. And I thought it was just a silly way to demonstrate how those lighting techniques that we use in regular portraiture can be applied to something on a micro scale. I'm Evan Naka, and I'll see you guys next time. See you later.